Now, the lion dances, you might think is only used in auspicious events like the celebration of the Spring Festival, but in reality, lion dances are used for a variety of purposes, including the more popular choice, which is using them for the Spring Festival, but they're also being used for other events in Chinese culture. And we mainly see the auspicious ones, but there are other cases where you have to have a lion dance. For example, a traditional Chinese wedding, a grand opening, or a special day like a anniversary of a building. We will have these, especially in Southeast Asia. But the one that really gets the most, how should I say, very shady reputation is probably the lion dances used in funerals. For example, the Filial lion, which has been reserved for high-profile figures in Chinese culture. For example, anybody you would look up to, anybody you would call shifu, that's what this type of lion dance is for. And we're gonna be getting into the sources so I could better explain this fascinating practice to you guys. And we're gonna be getting into some pretty dark shit. But anyway, what's the fun in that? So let's just get the show on the fucking road. So, 教手师, which is the actual name for the practice, is basically a type of practice, a funeral rite. It's basically the most highest form of filial piety, and it's reserved for very esteemed individuals, and they actually come in basically the typical Guangdong or Nanshi, which involves heads which have the Fatsan and Hoksan design, so it's pretty cool. But one thing I found out is that it's extremely rare in Singapore. It's more common in Taiwan and Hong Kong, and after the actual funeral, they actually burn the head. So it's kind of our way of sending off a very esteemed persons. The practice itself actually derives from a sense of filial piety, and the lion dance would actually nuzzle the casket in a very mourning manner. Some of the really intricate performances I've seen from triad funerals actually says a lot about their structure. They also have a sense of that filial piety, and yes, it is actually derived from this whole ancient Chinese where the head of a village or someone with very important status actually passes away, and that's how we send them off. An uneducated Westerner might call this a violation of the corpse, but as an ethnic Chinese, I honestly believe that things like this are essential, and this plays a huge part in Confucianism. The origins of this lion dance actually dates back to the romance of the Three Kingdoms. General Ma Chu, who actually fought against the Wei Emperor, so often is seen wearing a white armband, which signifies his mourning for his lost brother and father who has been killed by the Wei. And in this regard, the filial lion, which is white, actually represents General Ma Chao in this regard. Please don't confuse Xiao Shi with his monarch Ru Shi or Liu Bei. This was a misconception I think Hakamoy actually addressed in her video. Yes, both Ru Shi and Xiao Shi are white, but both of them have different reasons for them being white. The lion dance representing the warlord Liu Bei is actually white because Liu Bei is the most mature of the three brothers, while the lion dance representing General Ma Chao was white because it is actually the lion dance used to mourn the dead. 教手师 is the ultimate gesture of filial piety. This practice itself actually is only reserved for people you would call a mentor figure, a practice you can still see with triad funerals even today. Still regarded as a high honor for the Chinese martial arts world. Its practice is the exact same significance as burning a jarl on a ship for the Norse. Truly a spectacle the eye may behold. Alright, it's honestly unfortunate that although the practice is still relatively common in Taiwan and Hong Kong, the practice 教少师 is losing that prevalence in other places in the Sinosphere. It's because of how expensive it is, but at the same time, we're gonna have to be willing to make the investment because this practice itself and its cultural significance ties back to the ancient Chinese values of filial piety. Do you know how much mental hell your parents and teachers have to go through in order to prep you guys for the workforce, to actually ingrain competence in your life so you'll be able to survive the real world? All of this, all you have right now, it wasn't by chance, okay? The least you can do to repay that kindness and dedication is to actually take the time to invest money that you've earned on your own and to repay that kindness by actually throwing an elaborate funeral for your parents or your teachers to actually properly send them off. Now, I can't believe I'm trying to explain this to a bunch of progressive people, but since we're living in an age where traditionalist opinions are seen as vile and worth being burnt on the stake, like back in the Salem witch trials, it really goes to show how much the woke culture has rotted society to its roots. You ungrateful little Reiterating my last statement, yes, 教少师 is a funeral practice that I guess only Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, and some of the other billionaires around the world could be able to afford for their loved ones. In that sense, it's one of the most highest honors you can give to someone in the martial arts world. It's also the embodiment of filial piety. In fact, it is so rare that these types of stuff, like this practice, makes huge headlines in media because of how rare it is. And it really goes to show how far we're willing to go to actually pay the pretty penny in order to send off our loved ones in a way where we know that it truly does them justice. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that kind of brief explanation of 教少师, the practice involving lion dancing in a Chinese funeral. It's honestly an honor to talk about this topic because it's just such a important thing in my heart as someone who is Sinitic. And yeah. Anyways, I know there's like little sources. If not, we can only find sources mentioned in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and unfortunately, none of the ancient texts explaining how they would do this type of thing in ancient times. I mean, honestly, I think it's because of what Mao Zedong did in the Cultural Revolution. So fuck him to the moon. Hopefully his soul burns into you for all the culture that was lost to us Chinese during that point in time. So yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And I gotta go. Keep venturing to the unknown. Signing the fuck off.